This is Neil Good from the Good Law Group. Today I'm going to complete my two-part series on filling out the Adult Function Report. It's Form 3373. I believe last time we left off on page 5. Do you need any special reminders to take care of your personal needs and grooming? So this is more directed toward people who have psychological issues. Obviously, if you're in a lot of pain and you can't do things, you can't do them. Normally people who have psychological problems, or a lot of them don't get dressed, they don't shower, they don't bathe, and the same thing with pain. I mean, if you're in pain, though, you can't, sometimes if you have an open wound or whatever, you can't actually take a shower and stuff like that. So you need to note that there. Okay, the next thing is on section 13 is about meals. And, at some level, everybody needs to eat. So this isn't that important other than, you don't want to make it seem like you're cooking gourmet meals every day unless you are, but then you're probably not disabled. So most people are able to prepare simple meals, but not complicated meals. I mean, if you can't pour, make a piece of toast or, make a sandwich, then you're really in pretty bad shape. But again, if you can't do those things, you should enunciate them here. The next section is house and yard work. And, if you have physical problems, this is really important because those are things that entail a lot of physical activity. So, for example, how do you mow your lawn if you have a bad back? Or, how do you vacuum if you can't bend over? How do you do any cleaning at your house? So in here, you need to make sure that you fill out the things you're not able to do. So sometimes I see people write, that they can do light dusting, but they can't do laundry. They can't do dishes. They can't wipe the tables off, stuff like that. The next section is getting around. Okay. So, it's important if you don't drive to put that down here. And if you have other issues that affect your driving, then you need to put them down. So, for example, if you have a vision problem and you can't see at night, or the doctors have restricted you to no driving, you need to make sure you mention that and how you get around. Obviously, if you're able to ride a bicycle, then to Social Security, that's a lot of physical activity, so you're probably not disabled. The next section is shopping. Well, again, almost everybody has to do shopping. They have to be able to buy their food and buy, basic toiletries and household needs. So it's a question of how you answer these questions. If you say you don't go out, then how do you go to a store? So don't get caught in this sort of trick question of, how do you do shopping? They're looking to see how you answer the question. The next one is handling money. So in my experience, this is really a question for people who have psychological problems because they have trouble adding, subtracting, keeping track of numbers, and handling savings and stuff like that. And then also they want to know, has your ability to handle money changed since your illness or injury? Well, I mean, if before your spouse was, you were taking care of all the checkbook and financial stuff at the house and your spouse is doing that now, you need to note that. Okay. Hobbies and interests. Okay. This is really important. I see people make mistakes on this all the time. They're talking about your hobbies and interests now, not before. Okay. So I see people write down, I play basketball, I did this, I did that. And then they don't mention that they're not doing it anymore. So this is what you're doing now after you're disabled. So for example, if you said basketball, and you're doing it once a week, then you're probably not disabled. If you say I'm watching TV and I do that every day, all day, then that kind of shows more that you're on the disabled side. And then they ask about changes in your activities since the illness or injury began. So then you could put down, well, I used to play basketball, I used to do this, I used to do that. So don't get them confused. Okay, and then with social activities, the next section, this is more for people with psychological problems, but again, if you have pretty severe physical problems, you're probably not going out and socializing much. So the first thing they ask is, do you spend time with others? And then they break it down into in-person, on the phone, email, text, and mail. So most people who isolate don't do any of those things. And so if you have anxiety and depression and you isolate yourself, then you probably don't contact people that often. And again, if you're able to do things with others, like go out grocery shopping, go to the movies, go out to dinner, then you're probably not really that disabled, especially from a psychological point of view. Do you need reminders to go places? Well, I mean, again, if you say you have memory problems, these are the things that you ought to be forgetting. And so somebody hopefully is telling you, reminding you where you have to go. Or people say, I put alarms in my phones. That's fine too. And then a lot of people who are disabled need somebody to accompany them, whether it's for mental support or physical support, such as, opening doors and helping them up and down stairs. Then they want to know about describing changes in your social activities. So again, if you had a normal social life before and you didn't have one now, then you should be explaining to them that, before I used to go out to dinner once a week, I dated, we had social friends. Now I stay home and my spouse takes care of all of our social stuff and misses a lot of things without me. So for example, I also see people write stuff like, I don't go to my child's basketball games anymore. I don't go to family functions anymore. Things like that. Then the next section is D, and the first part of it is a list of all of the possible things that you have limitations in. And I would say, make this pretty broad. In other words, even if you have it sometimes, you should put it down because those things all affect your ability to work. Okay, then they want to know if you're right-handed or left-handed, which you should know. You should answer that. And then they ask about how far you can walk before you need to rest. Well, I mean, if you have a disability that doesn't allow you to walk, it's important to put down how, you can only walk for 10 minutes and then you need a 15-minute rest. Then the next question in the section is about following written instructions. So again, this tends to be for people who have psychological problems and they have trouble either remembering or following instructions, because if they read it and they forget, then they obviously can't follow it. And if they have trouble getting along with people, they don't want to listen to what they say. Okay, and then how well do you get along with authority figures? So in my mind, that question is really about, have you ever lost a job because you haven't gotten along with your boss, or do you have trouble with the police, or people telling you what to do? So you should be answering that way. And then they ask if you've ever been fired or laid off with, from having a problem with other people. So a lot of people who have psychological problems or problems getting along with people, not only do they have trouble with their boss, sometimes they get along with their boss, but all the coworkers they have trouble with. So that's the place you kind of explain that, in the past, the coworkers have been harassing me, or I thought they were talking about me and I left the job. On to page 9. How well do you handle stress? So again, this tends to be more of a psychological problem, unless it's really a heart issue, because people with heart problems, sometimes stress aggravates their heart condition. But typically people who have anxiety or depression, stress aggravates them. So you need to explain that. Have you noticed unusual behaviors or fears? Well, a lot of people don't notice them, but it might be a good idea to ask somebody if you have any of those, because a lot of people are, afraid to go out, afraid of being in the dark. So, and these are considered unusual fears. And as far as behaviors, like people have OCD, they have to touch every single block or, on a sidewalk. So that's a place where you would write that down. Okay. And then to use any of the following. So for most people, a lot of people wear glasses and stuff. And so that's where they put that down. But they're really looking for, do you use a crutches? Do you use a cane? Do you use a brace? Do you use a walker? And that's, where you put that down. And to Social Security, the question is, was it prescribed? So in the eyes of Social Security, anybody can go to Walgreens and buy a walker or a cane. So to them, it's a big deal if a doctor said, prescribe you using a walker or a cane. They don't have to prescribe the actual walker or cane, but it needs to be in the medical records that the doctor said, you need to start using a cane because you keep falling, or you need to use a walker because your legs are too weak. The final page starts with question 22, and it says, do you currently take any medication for your illness, injuries, or conditions? And the answer most of the time is yes. If yes, do your medicines cause side effects? Yes. If yes, please explain. So the only thing they want to know there is a list of medicines and the side effects. They don't want to know all the medicines you're taking, okay? Then in the next section, they ask to make any other comments. And I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but not in this video, last video, the less you say here, the better. These are only things they use against you. They very rarely use these things to help you. So my suggestion to my clients is you don't fill anything out here, okay? Then the other part is the signature at the bottom. So in the event that you had somebody help you, you should be noting it there. Because a lot of times what happens is somebody has somebody else fill it out, and then they sign their name, and then we get to court, and they don't know what the person filled out. They say, well, my brother filled it out. I didn't really do that. But if it doesn't have the correct name for the person who filled it out, then it appears that you filled it out and you're changing what you said. Thank you for listening today. If you have any questions about this, feel to reach out to us, and the contact information for my firm is below. Have a good day.